By the way, how annoying is The View getting? God, they're insufferable that long, aren't they? It's just a side effect. But she told Joy Behar that she's scared as heck, and it's this permanently offended, snowflakey, cancel culture mob who descend like a pack of hornets on anything they can get themselves into, trying to suppress everyone.
Thank you for coming, and let's get started. Piers Morgan recently lost it on The View. This wasn't a mere insult. An outright takedown was placed. However, what made him so angry? It is the same old narrative, he says. If someone has an opinion, the so-called permanently offended, cancel culture mob will strive to silence them like hornets. Additionally, Morgan despises cancel culture more than anything else. One of the most vocal opponents of it for years, he has compared it to contemporary fascism and called it madness and a menace to free expression. His tirades about how it's making people cowards who are afraid to voice their opinions are endless. It sounds quite intense, doesn't it? Here's where it gets crazy, though. Demanding that ABC cancel The View is the same man who has made it his goal to combat cancel culture. He didn't hold back in his New York Post essay, denouncing the play as a comedy that denigrated Trump and was meaningless. Is it harsh? Indeed. Is he right, however? Morgan said the show has become nothing more than a daily tirade against Trump, with hosts not even feigning objectivity.
Progressive voices at The View reacted to her appointment like this.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that.
He claims they drag him every day and mock him, and that this is now more than simply his politics. It's personal. In my worst nightmares, I find myself trapped on a desert island with the hosts of The View. Morgan continued, taking it a step further. He continued by saying that these nightmares were persistent, excruciating, mentally damaging, and always followed the same pattern. Then, without a second's hesitation, Morgan attacked, beginning with Joy Behar. Joy Behar was the first person Morgan didn't hold back. After calling her out on the Halloween costume incident in which she was accused of wearing blackface, he attempted to pretend it never happened. Then Alyssa Farah Griffin arrived. Morgan accused her outright of being a political chameleon, reminding everyone that she had previously worked for Trump and referred to him as a fantastic president. Now, all of a sudden, he is the worst leader ever. Without hesitation, he called her a flip-flopper. And is he mistaken? From complimenting someone to portraying them as the antagonist of a subpar film, how does one move from that? So what was it? Just a professional change, or a true change of heart? As a result, The View now resembles a political reality show more than a conversation show, with the plot shifting based on who is popular. Sunny Hostin, however, was not going to overlook that. The actual flip-flopper, in her opinion, isn't anyone from The View. Morgan refused to believe it. He said Nikki Haley had fabricated feelings over her husband's military deployment, and he accused Hostin of unfairly targeting her. Then he slapped her with her own hypocrisy, accusing her of being critical of Haley for not using her given first name, even though she doesn't use her own. Naturally, a proper Morgan takedown would not be complete without mentioning Whoopi Goldberg. He reminded everyone of her previous scandals, such as the time she was suspended from The View for remarks she made regarding the Holocaust that caused a huge online outcry. And that is just a small portion of it. Whoopi has experienced her share of scandals. Do you recall her earlier defense of Roman Polanski? Indeed, it also sparked a firestorm. By now, Morgan's tirade was more than a personal viewpoint. The roast was a full-fledged affair. It makes sense why The View evokes powerful emotions in people. Later on, Morgan said that the broadcast no longer focused on actual argument. It's merely an echo chamber where your ability to be biased is the only thing that counts. You know what? There are those who concur with him. That Morgan has a point is even being acknowledged by many who despise Trump. The slant of the viewpoint is evident. What if, then, the objective was to unite viewpoints? That's definitely not going to happen. Hold on, though. Is Morgan simply acting in the same way? He is being called out by some critics who wonder if The View should actually be canceled. It's less like a never-ending session of left-wing therapy. If they held actual debates rather than merely grilling Republicans every day, wouldn't that be far more interesting? Or is this the new normal for talk shows? People no longer argue. They simply take sides and go to work.
Goldberg's, like, did you see what she did to that Staten Island bakery?
Yeah.
No.
Crazy.
What?
So
She ate
Staten
everything.
Island Bakery, their boiler went down, and she placed an order of cupcakes for her birthday. And they couldn't do
Hold
the
on.
order.
I can't imagine yet how this would go back. Okay, go ahead.
So she places this order. They say, we can't promise you that we can do this because our boiler is down. so we can't fulfill this order. And so then the next day, the boiler's back up. She has someone else call the same bakery, and they get the order in because now the boiler's up. She claims the reason why they didn't take her order is because they didn't like her politics. And so she says this on The View. So then the bakery has a press conference where they say, we've been in business for 150 years. This is not what happened at all. We don't discriminate against anybody regardless of anything. We just had a problem with our boiler, and she's singling out a family-run business, and then there's a line around the block for the bakery.
Morgan isn't entirely incorrect, to be honest. In essence, the show is dancing the limbo because it leans so far to the left. When a conservative visitor enters, they hardly say anything before, all of a sudden. They didn't even sign up for this verbal WWE bout. But they're thrust into it. One side has the microphone, and the other is merely hoping for a commercial break. It's not a discussion, but more an intellectual roast. You have witnessed it. An argument in a real-life group chat breaks out when someone tries to make a point. Do they watch from home? I'm stunned. The View is no longer even a talk show, according to some jokes. It's merely a roast session that people watch to chuckle. The year's biggest narrative twist would be to have a real, peaceful conversation on The View at this point. Forget unexpected visitors. Just give someone the opportunity to finish a sentence without losing focus. It would be revolutionary, right? So what's the solution? As you consider that, let's go on to the next drama. When Kamala Harris arrived, Piers Morgan and his team set fire to The View. To put it mildly, it wasn't pretty. Did you notice the enormous swing in the scenery? Are you saying it's unbearable? He's not the only one that thinks so, let's face it. But stating it in such a public way, it was a brave move. This show has established a reputation, though. The hosts are sometimes shouting over one another and nodding as if they've just figured out the Da Vinci Code. However, Morgan's jab wasn't limited to the mayhem. It was a clear critique of The View's transformation into a political safety net for Democrats.
I'll say this. What Joy is up to is nothing more than selfish personal publicity gain right now. She wants to attach her name to Carrie Underwood's name so that she maintains relevance because they know the ship is sinking.
The View is not a moral authority on anything. I mean, the day I look to Joy Behar for life advice is the day I retire.
It's as though the election never stopped for them. And they just cling to their hatred of Donald Trump, which is fine. I have no problem with that at all. But like a lot of these late night comedy shows that no longer have anybody watching them, and they're officially on cancellation notice because they're not going to survive with the numbers that they're getting. I don't think The View will survive ultimately either.
Country superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in the statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are.
He also presented a video of Kamala Harris and Joy Behar together to buttress his argument. In it, Joy asked Harris a pointed question on Trump's chances of winning again, and then casually used the word crazies to characterize his supporters. It gets complicated from here since Harris was entering a political minefield regardless of her response. She may lose the backing of centrist voters who don't think all Trump followers are insane if she agreed too much. She may anger the very crowd that was expecting her to disparage Trump, meanwhile, if she reacted negatively to Joy's language. So what did she do? She was cautious, nodded, kept it ambiguous, and concentrated on one issue to make sure that everyone was afraid, because Joy Behar was an expert at what she was doing. This wasn't some hardline inquiry concerning actual policy shortcomings or difficulties. This was a pretext. Harris was kept in her comfort zone with this well-crafted softball question. Morgan's frustration, too, incredibly clear. The View is no longer a respectable talk program, in his opinion. With a studio audience that applauds in unison whenever a Republican is pulled, it's merely a biased political rally. However, this is when things become heated. That didn't sit well with Morgan and his panel. Joy used the word crazies to refer to Trump supporters without any hesitation, and Harris didn't even bat an eye. Not even a raised eyebrow, no correction. People immediately recalled Hillary Clinton's iconic basket of deplorables remark, which, let's face it, did not sit well with the public in 2016.
Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists, but they have been wrong about everything. These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wait.
At least Clinton took responsibility for her statements, according to some panelists. She made a deliberate, unambiguous message. What about Harris? It was a tense, rambling muddle of an answer. The panel then plunged in forcefully. The notion that the United States Vice President, one of the most powerful individuals on the planet, would be frightened of a 77-year-old man with a comb-over was ridiculed. A sarcastic comment was even made by one blogger who pointed out that Harris has the support of one of the most powerful armed forces in history, but she's behaving like Trump is some unstoppable evil from a horror film. They contended that she is simply playing into fear, saying, "I'm afraid," repeatedly, as though it were a political tactic, rather than outlining concrete policy. This is where the argument becomes intriguing, though. A few panelists actually resisted. Harris handled herself effectively, they contended, not because she was inspirational, but rather because she avoided any significant pitfalls.
Without exploring less invasive treatments with American Transit citing New York's 1974 no-fault law as contributing to widespread insurance fraud. Vinny, what do you know about this story?
So, oh man, it's just The View. Just a person, the Sunny Hostin that we all love from one of my favorite shows on The View. And it's always, Tom, what'd you always say? It's always the people that always do the pointing. And it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said this is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia case. Like the mafia one was number one. This one takes it over. So he was scamming insurance companies from taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers. He was performing unnecessary surgeries and then providing fraudulent medical services in exchange for the kickbacks. Here's a clip. I want you guys to see of Sunny Hostin on The View, Tom, basically implicating her husband in this type of a scheme. Play the clip, Rob.
Wait, hold on. Let Sunny get in here.
I mean, I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do. So there are a lot of problems with it. But the notion that we are in a violent country, this country was built on violence.
Even when it came to the subject of race in America, she refrained from saying anything that would be seen as controversial. She did not categorically label the United States as racist, but she also did not refute it either. Perhaps too cautious yet strategic, it was a balancing act. According to one person, her main responsibility at the moment is not to shine, but rather to avoid making mistakes. And then there is the actual strategy involved. Panelists are attempting to seem intelligent, as if they were talk show philosophers 1 minute. Then they're reading fortune cookies with advice so poor you'd believe they were penned in a hurry during lunch. For instance, Kamala Harris. She may not be the most engaging speaker. At times, it seems as like she is buffering in the middle of a statement, as if her words are being mistranslated.
I have to say, I was surprised when she mentioned his sense of humor. But I'm going to leave that alone and ask y'all the question, will the candidate's spouses getting involved like she just did?
What?
That's what it says. That's what it says. And this is my job, so I'm reading it.
Yeah.
As I said, as she just did, will it make a difference here?
Well, I think when you hear Doug Emhoff, the vice president's, husband, speak about their relationship, I think it's very touching. He is behind her 100%. He's very loving. He spoke at the DNC, and I think he described a person that people wanted to know.
Well, perhaps that's precisely the idea. Perhaps she just appears on this show, says a few words, pauses dramatically as if she were going to impart some profound, life-altering knowledge, and then nothing. A few meaningless words and a lot of air. Piers Morgan, meanwhile, is over here making fun of The View like it's the biggest joke on daytime television. Furthermore, a lot of people are endorsing him for criticizing the show and even demanding its cancellation. What's so crazy about it? They are completely unaware of what is taking place. At the moment, The View is more of a tool than a conversation program. A tool to increase views by disparaging others.
If you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
Sonny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it, and it's nothing.
Just
there.
go for it. Yeah.
It is comparable to a reality TV program, but it has a lot more political punching bags and far less drama. Now let me ask you a question. Are you of the opinion that Piers Morgan is going too far, or is he simply expressing his opinions? What is the true plan underlying all of this? Is the goal to keep the base motivated, or is it fear-mongering? Should The View be completely removed? Or does it only require a significant change in perspective to incorporate some honest, unvarnished debate? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your take on this. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit a like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to this channel. More videos are coming out soon. See you on the next one.